Hey, welcome back to this 200 level series of how to perform at your best. If you are new to this, make sure that you maybe view the 100 level series to learn some perspectives. But if you're new to this, welcome. Quite often, when I was a full-time practicing performance coach and a sports psychologist and teacher, that the main reason people would contact me was over this concept of performance anxiety. And a lot of times I would play dumb saying, I had no idea what that means. What does that mean to you? Because that phrase, performance anxiety, is frequently seen as a catch-all dumping ground for all sorts of other mental and emotional issues. There are no clear-cut definitions, no clear-cut answers to overcoming performance anxiety. I'm going to share with you a bunch of things in this video that you may want to pick and choose what fits for you. Firstly, think about it in this way. We perform every day. Whether we're driving a car, we perform. Riding a bicycle or motorcycle, we perform. Doing a whole level of minute movements. Even when we're cooking an omelet, that's a performance. Even if we give a speech in a class at our college, that's a performance. We perform every day. It's only when we're in more structured and pressurized situations that it becomes important that your performances matter. These things mean something. And that's where sometimes you feel the pressure of it. In a later video of this 200 level series, I'm going to have a whole video on how to handle pressure. So view that when it becomes posted. In another video, I'm going to be having a whole series of perspectives and skills of how to overcome your speech anxiety that you can apply to test taking or any other performance anxieties. So wait for that one to be posted too. But I want you to understand your own notions of performance anxieties. A lot of us think that performance anxiety is just before the performance, before we walk on stage or go into the arena. No, performance anxiety is an extension of your overall feelings about your performances. Think about this. When are you your own worst enemy in performances? And when can you be your own best friend? You can't be both. You are either working against yourself or combating yourself, or you are your own best friend, supporting and building up yourself. Earlier in this series of the 200 series, we talked about how to overcome your self-put-downs, your negative self-talk. Go back and view that again, and that'll help you a lot. Also, earlier in the 100 level series, video 110, we talked about something that is oftentimes the core of our performance anxieties, and that's the connection with different types of fears. Fears are really so insidious that they are at the core of it, but we don't realize that we're afraid of something, afraid of failure, sometimes afraid of success, afraid of possible negative consequences, or failure of going on. What are your fears? Because those lead itself to specific forms of performance anxieties in the situations. In more pressurized performances, they mean something. They matter to something. You have to put yourself out there in those situations. They're a testing ground, a proving ground of how far you've come and how far you need to go. They're also measures of how committed you were. After every performance, you can ask yourself, did I do my best? Sometimes, even if the results were disappointing, if you can face yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I did my best, you can live with that. Was I committed to what I was doing? even though it didn't turn out well. You can live with that. A committed failure, big body failure, is much better of a learning experience than a non-committed success. Think about that. Is that you can control your commitment level 100%, but a lot of times you can't totally control the outcomes. So if you can say to yourself after a performance, yeah, I did my best, I put it out there, I was totally committed, then you can build upon that. And in its own way, the performance anxiety, these little niggly things that snip away at us, will be eliminated because you're learning how to redirect yourself to the things you can do versus the things that you're maybe afraid of doing and not being able to commit yourself to it. One of the ways to handle any kind of performance anxiety is not to expect perfection. No one is ever given a perfect performance. Part of this is taking the pressure off yourself, finding some ways, accepting yourself and saying, here I am, I'm going to give myself the best opportunity to perform well in this situation. Do not expect the perfect A game to come out. Remember, it's quite acceptable to have your B efforts or a B plus effort. Those are quite acceptable in most performances. Also, that's where the rare A game emerges from anchoring yourself with a B level performance where you're efficient and effective. You cannot switch on an A performance. You cannot switch on perfection like you turn on a light switch. That's where you settle into yourselves. Find ways. And one way is just to take the pressure off yourself and say, I'm going to be efficient and effective. I will stay within myself. I'll learn how to stay centered and relaxed, and I'll learn how to apply my concentration. That's the basis of getting off to. Hopefully that makes some sense. Here's something that you might never have thought about yourself when you're thinking about performance and performance anxieties, and that is to honor yourself. Yeah. In performances, you're coming face to face with yourself on not only what you're doing, but how you're doing it and who you are. Can you be classy in your performances? That's the acid test. Can you be honest with yourself? Okay, because you come face to face with who you are and what you can do during these performances. If you can come face to face with that, then you can start honoring yourselves. And then you can learn how to appreciate what you've done and how to apply that. A lot of times when I had regular people contracted to me, we would have phone sessions or video sessions, and from different parts of the United States, or sometimes they were different parts of the world. I would always end those sessions with, all right, with tomorrow's performance, go out and surprise yourself. The first time they hear that, they say, well, what does that mean? Is that go out and see what happens, see who you can be, and go out and surprise yourselves. Sometimes people would write the letters WTH. What the heck? What the heck? I'm going to just go throw myself into my performance and see what happens. That's part of being totally committed in what you're doing. I've always been amused and amazed and even horrified by some coaches or directors, musical or acting directors, or well-meaning parents, or some kind of outside expert who would berate their people leading up to a performance, who would be stickly on little points, who would drag people down, who would yell and scream at their people. Only at the as the performance came upon them, they said, okay, now let's go have fun out there. How can people have fun out there when they've been totally berated, and they were berating themselves? There's a place for that. There's a place for having fun. There's a place for enjoying, but it's extending onto your overall way of approaching practices, rehearsals, and indeed performances. I've made a distinction between having fun and being true enjoyment. Optimally, I would like to enjoy the process and the results and what I'm doing. There also may be times, especially during some lead up practices, to have fun. Here's some things, there's some distinctions between having fun and having enjoyment. Having fun is oftentimes shallow or temporary, where enjoying something is more deep, more sustaining. Remember in early or 100 level series, I talked about two different basic personality types of performers, feelers and thinkers. Remember? And feelers love having fun. That's when they release themselves and just have fun, and it's their own way of immersing themselves into the performance, where thinkers genuinely enjoy that opportunity, that challenge. It almost means more for them. It's more of an ends, where having fun for feelers is more of a means. Having fun is also just being in the moment, where enjoyment is being more immersed after the moment, where having fun detaches yourself from any kind of self-imposed or external imposed pressures, where having enjoyment is you're immersing yourself, with teammates, with opposition, and the moment. Having fun can be just the essence of play. Enjoying playing the game. Having fun is enabling yourself to allow things to come out, where having enjoyment is just feeling how you can concentrate, how you can center yourself, how to put it all together. There's times to have fun and there's times to enjoy. And if you're throwing yourselves into these dimensions continually, then you can release yourself. You can respond to these situations. Hopefully that's making some sense for you. Nothing beats the feeling of being well prepared before a performance. That's part of that honesty, is that I've done everything I can up to this moment to be prepared mechanically, tactily, and mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. If you're feeling prepared, then you can just throw yourself into the performance, release yourself into performance. Like an archer who says when the arrow is released, that's what you're doing with it. You're not turning it on, you're releasing everything that's ready and going ahead and doing it. The better you look at how to anticipate, how to throw yourself into the performances as a challenge, as a test to yourself, with the mindset of pure enjoyment or pure fun, what happens is that these notions of performance anxiety, fears, doubts, insecurities, they run their course. I'm a great believer that if you focus on the positive things, the here and now things, a lot of the negative nigglies, a lot of the negative worries, doubts, insecurities, they run their course. Yes, there is a time to understand your own performance anxiety. And as you do that, you can then let that stuff go, and you're replacing it with how to throw yourself in, how to commit, how to accept, how to apply, and who to be. Go back and view this again to be aware of your own forms of performance anxiety, how you're blocking it, how you're being your own worst enemy, and learn how to be just the other, how to be your own best friend, your own supporter, and throw your energies into those. I'm Tom Kubistant. I shall see you next time.